Hey guys, what's going on? We got another Mythic Plus video here as Enhancement Shaman. This time we are playing a Storm build, and we are doing an Algeth'ar's 13 with Tyrannical, Volcanic, and Sanguine. So if you guys didn't know, Enhancement been on a bit of a struggle bus with the pre-patch. It's not doing so hot, but I figured why not keep trying? So I did my usual storm build with the Ascendance proc rather than splintered elements with Primordial Wave. Reason being is I just prefer Ascendance proc over anything, and just the amount of AoE
Watch
that you
your
can
step.
do with this is fine. And it's not like you're pulling big. Like, this is the biggest pull out of like every single dungeon out there. So it honestly turned out fine,
Watch
and
your step.
really, you don't get a whole lot of value out of using splintered elements in a storm build. But yeah,
Watch your step.
anyways, you'll see this pull doesn't really do too great for me, but overall, it turned out just fine. But anyways, I want to talk more about
Watch
the
your
war
step.
within and what's to come. So if you weren't there, I did a beta stream on Saturday,
Watch your
I
step.
think, and we did some testing in both arenas and a little bit in Mythic Plus. And I've also been watching one of the
Watch your
streamers
step.
do Mythic Plus on beta as Enhancement Shaman, and it looks like he's running a very
Watch your
weird
step.
build. And you're probably wondering, well, what kind of weird build is that? He is
Watch your step.
running uh, Lava
Watch your
Lash
step.
with Hot Hand and Lashing Flames, right? So your typical Elementalist build. But instead of going down the
Watch
left
your
side at
step.
all to get any Doom Winds or anything like that, he leaves that. And then he goes and takes Ascendance with Thorm's Invocation, as well as Elemental
Watch your
Spirits
step.
and Primordial Wave, but no Splintered Elements because Primordial Wave's Splintered Elements got nerfed by 50%. So yeah, that's a big reason. But why does he do that? And he's also Stormbringer. So the big reason why I think he does that is because when you cast Primordial Wave, right, your next lightning bolt is going to target everything with Flame Shock on it. And what this is going to do is it's going to actually trigger Storm Conduit on all of those units. And what that does is all your Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt damage, 10% of that gets sent to all targets marked with that. So you get quite a big damage boost from that. So which is pretty big. And on top of that, he's not like it looks really weird because he's not even running Legacy of the Frost Switch, so he doesn't get any Storm Strike reset. But like it's doing damage, even though I never would have thought something like that would have came together, but it seems to work. And I mean, it's very interesting because it's something I never would have thought worked, right? Because we had something kind of like that in season 2 of Dragonflight, you know,
Watch
where
your
you had
step.
Ascendance. You also used a bit of Primordial Wave, but at the same time, it was kind of like this mix mash of Storm and Elementalist together. Weird. But relying on both Lava Lash and
Watch
Storm
your step.
Strike to do damage, I never thought would be a build, but usually it's pick one or the other. But actually seeing it in action, it was a lot more fluid than the storm build I thought was going to be, which was with Fire Nova, Doom Winds, and stuff like that. That one felt very like too much
Watch
going
your
on
step.
almost, because when during your Doom Winds window, you want to be
AOE
casting,
incoming.
you know, Crash Lightning or Sunder or Storm Strike spamming, right? Whereas um in Mythic Plus, you also have Fire Nova, so you're kind of losing that global, and it's also kind of making it a bit clunky and stuff like that. So it's honestly, it
Watch
was
your
a really
step.
good, because I started playing with it and I was like, it felt a lot better. And when you proc Ascendance, you're just smashing Storm Strike, you know, sending out those free Chain Lightnings.
Watch your
But I
step.
think the bigger part of it is Storm's
Again.
Invocation gives you a lot of Maelstrom back. So when you cast Tempest, Lightning Bolt, or Chain Lightning, you have a chance to refund all Maelstrom spent on it. And then also Thorn's Invocation. increases damage dealt by chain lightning and lightning bolt by 20%. So you get like a huge benefit. So you're actually doing a lot more damage with that. And since they decided to nerf splintered elements, it definitely shows. Definitely shows that it's not as important. You could just do like a regular elementalist build, I guess, but I think the Ascendance proc also on its own dishes out quite a lot of nature
Watch your
damage.
step.
So yeah, but yeah, after playing with it, it was a lot of fun, and I tried it in PvP. It actually turned out really well. So it's going to be interesting if that build sticks around.
Watch your
Now,
step.
I haven't done any testing with Totemic and that, but if that build works for Stormbringer, I think it would work really, really well with Totemic
Watch your
because
step.
Totemic works around both fire and physical damage. So using both Lava Lash and Storm Strike actually does turn out to be a benefit in this
Run.
sense. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out once I get a test around.
Watch
But
your step.
as for enhancement on pre-patch, honestly, it's just a waiting game right now. We are waiting for the War
Watch
Within
your feet.
because Blizzard decided they didn't want our talents to be fully released for whatever reason. And it seems like everybody's gained this pretty big damage creep, especially Fury Warriors. They've been explosive throughout the whole season. But we havenent seen any form of tuning, which is kind of interesting to me. The reason being is that I know it's a pre-patch, but to be so far ahead, it's kind of, it's really depressing in a sense because it's like there's nothing you can do. He's just completely outclassing you.
Shockwave.
And I'm not talking about like 10 or 20k damage different.
Interrupt.
It's like 200 to 300k damage difference.
Watch your feet.
It is up there. And that's, in my opinion,
Shockwave.
like shouldn't be a thing. But it is pre-patch, so they're probably not even worried about anything like that. They're just waiting for they're just waiting for War Within as well.
Shockwave.
And enhancement is
Shockwave.
looking good for player versus environment content. I know a lot of people have marked it down as A tier, high B tier maybe. We did just receive a bit of a nerf, but it's still going strong. Like, I guess I wouldn't really call it a nerf. It was more like a balance out. So they took power away from the hero talents and put it into the base talent. So, which is good. So that way you're not just relying on Tempest or Surging Totem and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I do plan to do more testing. I want to do some testing with Totemic in Mythic Plus because that is one of the more interesting ones I have. Although the big issue with Totemic is
Watch your feet.
they changed it to be a surge around the totem itself, which I think is a kind of a big issue and also a big annoyance. I mean, it's a 24-second duration. Like, that's a long duration. And our Totemic projection is a 10-second cooldown. So if the mobs are moving a lot, then it's like basically pointless to use because you're not going to get much out of it. So I would like to see them change it to where it's like maybe it's a buff on you, like your totem is put on your back or whatever,
Spread.
or change it back to how it was where it chooses the target and erupts around
Shockwave.
them. So I don't know. I don't really like the way Totemic has been modified. I do like it for its style and the way it looks and stuff like that. I think it's very, very interesting. But yeah, I think it's more tailored towards Presto Shaman than it is enhancement. Which does make sense because Stormbringer is
changed.
more tailored towards enhancement than it is elemental. I have tried to get Stormbringer to
Shockwave.
work with elemental, but it doesn't hit very hard or do anything really. It does overload, but yeah, it really doesn't do much, which is kind of a shame. But right now, I think if the notes haven't come out yet, I think tomorrow or Wednesday or whenever the new beta build comes out, we should see some more tuning,
Shockwave.
specifically on shaman. But at the same time, like in in
Spread.
in PvE, I think raid and both Mythic Plus, I think we're in a good spot. I think we're in a balanced position, so I don't see them quite touching it. They might touch up on the awkwardness of some of the stuff, maybe, or the hero talents, try and get them a bit more fluid. I don't know, but I think we're okay in that
Phase
department.
change.
PvP is
Shockwave.
definitely in need of a little bit of a work, but
Spread.
defensive wise, we have basically tripled. Reason being is Stone Bulwark Totem is massive. It did get changed to a 3-minute cooldown, so you can no
Watch your step.
longer reset it with Totemic Recall, which is a slight shame, but it was kind of powerful. So instead, they increased the cooldown, but increased the power of it.
Shockwave.
So it's a fair trade-off. But we also get Earth Elemental with Primordial
Spread.
Bond, which is a small defensive. So you get 15% max HP and a 5% damage reduction for 1 whole minute or until your Earth Elemental dies. But yeah, so that's kind of exciting. Um, but other than that, I mean, Enhance is definitely in a good spot for War Within. I am
Spread.
excited to play it. I definitely will be playing it, especially considering the
Shockwave.
start of beta, it really wasn't looking too good. But as they have changed it and made, the proper modifications to the talent tree, it feels a lot better. The only thing is our Maelstrom spenders are still extremely powerful, which does kind of make sense, but at the same time, I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about it. Um, but it it's a weird position to see. Um, but yeah, I don't know
Shockwave.
what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to be the best just yet. But if I had to make a guess, Stormbringer is going to be the ideal hero talents everybody's going to choose for all forms of content, and that is because it has a great balance
Shockwave.
with the not a great balance, a great flow with the specialization. It just works the best. It feels the best. You don't get an extra button. You just get um, a
Shockwave.
ability changed essentially. So
Watch your feet.
after 4 or 5 lightning bolts, you get Tempest or whatever. But one of the cooler things also is Storm Strike,
Shockwave.
Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning all have a chance to trigger an effect. And if that effect happens 3 times, you gain Tempest as well. So you can get back-to-back Tempests, which is pretty cool. But
Shockwave.
yeah, as for flashiness and stuff, it's not super duper flashy, but it is pretty cool in my eyes. I really like the way it looks and it sounds. It's definitely pretty darn good. But yeah, as for pre-patch, I know a lot of people are really not happy with it. It's definitely in a serious struggle bus with damage output and stuff like that. Everybody got these super cool new talents and changes and buffs, and enhancements kind of stayed the same. Hasn't
Watch your
really
feet.
changed all that much, but yeah, for those of you that wanted Storm or for those of you that wanted Elementalist, um, sorry to say, but it looks like neither of them are coming through. Uh, it is definitely interesting. I never thought a build like this would have happened, but you know what? A brand new build is always fun to try out and see how it works because it, when you have 2 builds, you play one for a while, it does kind of make you want to play the other one. I know a lot of people just like smashing Stormstrike, and a lot of people like the complexity of Elementalist and like the idea of being a
Watch your feet.
close-up caster and stuff like that. But I am very, very excited to try out this new build because it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Just because I think
Watch
both
your feet.
Stormstrike and Lavalash should be staples of enhancement. They've been part of it for the
Interrupt.
longest time and stuff like that, so it's quite exciting to see it happen. But yeah, so Ascendance, And oh yeah, a
Watch your
lot of
feet.
people have been asking a question. Why did they give both Resto Shaman and Elemental Shaman both Ascendants and Root of Elements? That is because they removed the modifiers for their Ascendants. And what I mean by that is if Elemental still had its Further Beyond, if you didn't know what that was, it's while Ascended, you increase the duration, you gain haste, and then every time you spend Maelstrom, you increase the duration of Ascendant. If they still had that, they wouldn't have both rooted elements and ascendants. The reason why enhancement cannot have both ascendants and root of elements is because of Thorm's invocation. If we had both of them, they would have to nerf that so far into the ground it wouldn't even be worth taking. Because you would be spending more time in ascendants than you would outside of it. So that is one of the reasons. And the reason why you would be spending is because Storm
Watch your
Strike
step.
has so many multi-strike purposes, right? We have a higher chance just because of how fast we can send out Storm Strikes. Storm Flurry,
Run out.
Storm Bringer resets it as well. We have Frost Switch, so we're constantly smashing Storm Strike. Whereas for Elemental, they reduce the amount of lava bursting you can kind of do. You're more casting rather than instant casting now because they removed Windspeaker's Resurgence. If you don't know what that did, it was every time you
Run out.
spent Maelstrom, such as on Earthquake, Earth Shock, or Elemental Blast, you got a Lava Surge proc. And I believe in the recent
AoE
build,
incoming.
they
Watch
actually
your step.
reduced the chance to get a Lava Surge, but I could be wrong. But yeah, that is the reason why. So if you would want both Ascendants and Root of Elements, they would have to remove Thorm's Invocation for that to be a possibility, which I don't think would be a good thing. I think Thorm's Invocation is kind of good. At the same time, I do kind of like think it's bad, but like when you proc Ascendants, you feel very powerful at the moment, right? You're sending lightning bolts, and because of the amount of Maelstrom we generate now, it actually does feel very good to have Thorm's Invocation because you can spend Maelstrom while still hitting Wind Strike without wasting that, right? You're
Shockwave.
not just generating and then having to spend a global on a lightning bolt just to spend your Maelstrom. You're just smashing Wind Strike back to back to back to back to back because during the Ascendance, that's what you want to do. You don't want to be wasting anything like that.
Shockwave.
So, but yeah, that is the reason why. If they would bring both of those, they would probably bring out, those other talents, Preeminence and some other thing where you just get a bit of
Shockwave.
haste or you reduce the cooldown. That would that would reduce Ascendance's power for enhancement,
Watch your
which
feet.
would be okay, but at the same time, it wouldn't feel the same for Storm. It really wouldn't. It would actually kind of feel
Shockwave.
bad in a sense because you are generating that significant amount of Maelstrom. And when I say generate, I mean everything is kind of guaranteed to generate Maelstrom now. You have Elemental Assault, which makes Storm Strike, Lava Lash, and Ice Strike all generate a Maelstrom. You have, I think it's Swirling Maelstrom, where Hailstorm, Fire Nova, and Ice Strike all generate one per target hit or whatever. So you are generating a lot of Maelstrom, so you would have to be working around that and
Watch your
stuff like
feet.
that. So and you also have Crash Lightning, which procs Wind
Watch your
Fury, which
feet.
generates you're just generating so much Maelstrom. It when you proc
Watch your
Ascendance, you'd be
feet.
spending more time casting lightning bolts and stuff than wind striking, right? So there would be no point in being in Ascendance unless they were to buff wind strike to an absurd amount. But yeah, um, the nerfs that happened to Primordial Wave though are pretty significant. Um, it's honestly the fact that they nerfed it from 20% to 10%, the haste buff is quite an extreme amount. I really did not see that coming at all. I didn't think it was causing that much of an issue, but apparently it is. And is it a good thing? I don't know. If I'm being honest, I don't think splintered elements will be taken anymore for enhancement. It doesn't seem worth it at all to me. Because like the whole point was to take it, primordial wave, get the big
Watch your
buff,
feet.
and just blast. Because your flame shocks are ticking much faster. You just got like this massive burst of haste. And now you press it and you honestly don't even feel it, to be honest. You don't even feel that haste bonus. So I don't know what their
Target
plan
you.
is for that. Whether they might set it back, I don't know. But they did reduce the cooldown of it from 50 or from 45 to 30 seconds. So maybe that was the reason for the nerf, because you were almost in a constant state of like 30% bonus haste. So, but yeah, I'm not really sure what's gonna happen. But you know, we still have 2 or 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks until release. So it's a bit nerve wracking, but we are in a good spot
Target you.
currently. But that doesn't mean we will stay there. We do have a chance to get nerfed because that's usually what happens. We're good for beta, and then we get hit with the nerf bat. So be prepared for that. Don't get your hopes up too high. But yeah, I'm gonna keep my hopes up high because I love enhancement and I want it to succeed. I think it's a lot of fun no matter what build you do. Um, and this new build that's coming, honestly, I might even try it in pre-patch, even though you can't quite do it due to the talent point hold back with both Molten Assault and that other one there. So
Run.
it's definitely interesting. But
Breath
yeah.
incoming.
And also, I haven't even looked at any of the embellishments or anything that we can get. So it's it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. Enhancement is either going to be very good or very bad. There's never an in-between for
Run.
enhancement, and the reason why is because of all the RNG they have built into this darn spec, which does make it fun. In my opinion, the RNG
Breath
uh,
incoming.
does contribute to enhancement's fun factor. You know, you're just playing this lottery machine of damage. When you proc like a monster, you
Run.
are a monster. But if you don't proc, well, you suck. I mean, it's there's no way around it. You don't proc, you don't win. It's essentially it. But you know, I don't think I'm ever gonna give up on it. So hopefully you guys won't either, because honestly,
Breath
it's a
incoming.
blast. Very niche spec. I know it's not very popular, or people just
Run.
play it and then go, it's not that fun, or maybe maybe they're intimidated by the amount of stuff you have to think about and stuff like that. So I don't know. But yeah. Yeah, enhancement is looking good for the War Within at this point. I know it's struggling in pre-patch, but if you stick it out, it will get better. Hopefully. It should get better.
Breath incoming.
It should. But yeah. Yeah. War Within, have a
Run.
weird patch. But anyways, guys, that is it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to me ramble on about this random stuff. And hopefully you have a great rest of your day or night. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Laters.
Breath incoming. Run.